First time doing that. All right. So since there is a small number of us, I thought it'd be great to just kind of go around the horn and introduce ourselves and again, indicate which club you're with and your role. And then any one thing that you want to share with all of us that how you have managed to get through the past couple months. So I'll call you out based on what's on my screen. So Jay, we'll start with you.
Well, Jay with the Alumni Club of Southwest Florida here in Fort Myers, Lee County area. I'm the treasurer of the club and actually been kind of busy during the whole process. Haven't stayed inside very much down here. I guess haven't been following the rules all day. But, been doing a lot of volunteer work with a couple of different agencies down here, Meals on Wheels and also Harry Chapin, which shirt I have on here. We're going to the warehouse and helping out there, preparing boxes that we distribute down here to those that, that need food. So it's kind of busy several days a week, actually. So the only thing I've missed so far down here, but now it's opened up. But as of last week, the only thing I was really missing was being able to go out to a restaurant and have a good meal. But now, that's opened up down here. So
very good.
I'm living a normal life. I hate to say it. Doing just fine.
Good. All right, Brandon.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Cragen. I'm the vice president of the Treasure Coast Alumni Club of Florida. During this whole thing, I've actually still been working. I work for the local government of the city of Fort Pierce down here, so I've been pretty busy.
All right, Brian.
I'm as busy as I can be. I've got a title company, so I was even considered essential back when there was the shutdown, because it's conducting financial transactions. My law practice is doing just fine, so I'm set up in my home office right now. But other than that, like I go into the office as much as absolutely possible.
Okay, great. Kelly.
Hi guys, I'm with the Atlanta Club. Some of you may have worked with Sean and Cheryl. I feel lucky enough to still be working. I'm in human resources. I work for a healthcare IT company. We're able to work from home. And right before this all started, we just returned from a wonderful trip on the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer. So that was like the last thing that we did, I don't know if anyone else on this call went, but it was an amazing trip. And so that's kind of, stuck in my memory as the last thing that we did.
Okay. All right, Ken.
Well, doing pretty much the same thing as everyone else. I've gotten done about 1 million home projects. Getting tired of doing them. Not to rub it in, I did get out. I've been out sailing all day, so I look kind of a mess right now.
Amazing.
So, starting to get out a little bit.
All right. And you're with Suncoast, correct?
Coast, correct.
All right. Sherry.
Hi, I'm the president of the Treasure Coast Alumni Club. I am in Vero Beach, so Brandon's in St. Lucie County. I'm in Indian River County. I've been also working from home, essential employee for vocational rehabilitation, state of Florida, Department of Education. And we literally just found out we're going to be going back to work, kind of. We're going to continue to telework for a while, but we're going to be in the office a couple days a week. So been staying really busy, taking care of my grandparents. They live with us. Well, actually right now, kind of we're living with them. And being that they're 80 and 91, we've been doing all their shopping and running and trying to keep them in. So that's been a full-time job. So, but yep, we've been staying pretty busy here.
All right. Susan.
I'm Susan Porthals. I'm the president of the Broward County Alumni Chapter. I work from home, so it's been pretty easy. I do have an 8th grader who has been doing virtual school, so that's a little weird. He heads to high school next year. But I feel bad for him because he was playing baseball and lacrosse.
sent it to you
So
yesterday.
for him, not having sports,
You and
it's
Brandon.
been really hard. So luckily we live in South Florida, so we get out every morning, and he's been doing workouts. So just trying to stay healthy and busy and keeping him busy.
That could be a challenge itself, yeah. And Dawn.
So I'm here, all video. So I'm
That's true.
actually in the car, interesting enough, and a virtual background for some reason. Don't know why. Didn't select that. But I'm the president of the Charleston, South Carolina Club, and I work as a financial officer for a cable company here in the Charleston area. So we've been working from home and trying to manage that, as well as kind of directing where we need to go from how to direct the plant and looking to try to work us back into the facility with all the measures. As far as the club, we've been pretty silent right now. So I'm online right now trying to kind of get some ideas of how we can get some social interaction. We had several events planned, of course, like everyone else, that we've had to cancel and so forth. So it's been quite interesting in this time.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm glad to hear everyone's doing well and is safe and well. I know that the virus has affected all of us in many different ways. And so it's nice to kind of come together and look towards the future. So, and I think there are signs that are showing that things are moving in the right direction. So let's hope for the best. So this is being recorded, so just as a heads up, if you have any questions that you want to ask or things you want to ask of each other, please use the chat box or the chat feature where if you kind of scroll along the bottom of your computer screen, if you've not done a Zoom, you'll see the word chat. You just click on that and type in your question. I'll be monitoring that throughout the hour that we're together. I'll have some basic updates for you that I want to share with you. And then I'm going to dive into the questions that you all had asked during the registration process, and then additional questions that Colin has been kind enough to provide to me to keep the conversation going. The goal of tonight is to really kind of lay out some of the expectations and sharing of ideas, share with you some virtual programs that some groups have already hosted and the success that they're having with it, and also making sure that for those of you who wish to continue to have board meetings, how the Alumni Association staff can help you set those up through Zoom. So if you would raise your hand and let me know, were you planning on ordering football tickets for the fall? Well, Naples, Atlanta, Suncoast. So and Treasure Coast. So as you can imagine, we have no idea. Mid-June is when the university is to announce whether the students will be on campus in the fall. I think that will be a true sign to determine whether football will happen, and if it does happen with limited people in the stadium or no fans at all. I wish I had an answer that we're getting some inside scoop, but there's nothing and no one's saying anything about it. So we'll keep you posted with that. We do have a new format set up that we had worked with athletics. I think you folks are going to like it. Your folks will be able to go right online, order the tickets, and have it sent to their own account where they'll be able to download. We'll give you the instructions so that everyone can be seated together. So that's on the horizon. Most of you should have received the email from Colin to let you know that summer send-offs are going to be held virtually this year, in that what we're going to do is, because orientation is all virtual, we thought the best thing to keep the health and safety and welfare of the new students was to not have the summer send-off events taking place.
Oh, wow.
We do want you have the opportunity to have a welcome message posted on your website. And new this year is we're going to ask the students to opt in. So if any student from your area opts in, that means they want to receive information from you or can be placed on your listserv. I think we need to be cautious about what we send them or how often that we send them, but you will have a way to communicate. One of the things that we do think would be an alternative is to host something in December. So imagine taking the programs that we normally would do in the summertime and move it to December. And by doing so, to kind of plan it in between the end of finals and the beginning of the second spring semester. with the thought being if the students aren't on campus, then it truly would be a send-off because they would be coming back for starting in the spring semester in January. If they are on campus, then it's kind of like, hey, welcome home, how things go, and let us help you, make a connection to the club and the leadership here. So that's kind of the additional options that you have. Colin will continue to communicate with you with things that as we find it or find out and as decisions are made. So I wanted you to be aware of that. All of us do want you to make sure that you are checking your website to make sure it's as accurate as possible with up-to-date information. So, making sure the board is the current board that's listed, that you don't have an event from 2 years ago still on your website. You can submit through Workfront all those updates and changes, and the guys in Advancement Communications will get that taken care of for you. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Any questions about summer send-off? And to keep this easy, just kind of raise your hand and I'll call on you, and that way we get this efficiently done. Any questions on summer send-off? Yeah, Jay?
Well, not really a question on a summer send-off per se, except is it okay, like for the board, maybe a couple members of the board to meet with a student that we provide a scholarship and just have a dinner for that student instead of having a big event?
Yeah,
I don't probably do down here because we're now at 50% in our restaurants. So, we could actually have members of the board join the student.
Yeah, Jay, that's a great question. I think the guidance I'm going to give is as long as you're following the safety precautions and the social distancing and not putting anybody at jeopardy, knowing that the invitation might be declined because the student doesn't feel comfortable doing that. But yes, I think that is definitely something that is possible to have.
Okay.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for joining us. All right. The question on the chat box was about those who have paid for tickets. If there's nobody in the stands, will you be refunded? I think that I don't know the answer to that. My guess is they will either refund you or you can put it towards tickets for the following year would be my guess. But we'll seek that out and find out exactly what they're going to do about that. And that, Brian, you asked that. So Brian, I'll get you information on that. The other big news I have for you is because of everything that's going on and we still don't know what the university is going to do in terms of when we can have in-person gatherings, but we know it's going to be limited to size. We have made the decision to move the Club and Society Symposium to a virtual experience. So what I'm kind of excited about is that I think more people will actually be able to participate because as all of you know, there'll be no travel costs. There's no hotel, there's no airfare, and you can do it from the comfort of your home. What we envision, we have a meeting this week to kind of look at what the schedule would look like. My guess is we would do a 2-hour block that would kind of kick things off with our keynote speaker, update on the campaign, a chance to hear from Molly and the leadership of the association, and then a few other things. And then we would go into breakouts. And then, so let's say that takes place the second week of September. 2 weeks later, we have another round of breakout sessions, followed by 2 weeks later, another, very similar to what we're doing right now. We also envision pre-recording some of the sessions, and those sessions then would just be posted online on the group's page. One of the things we also are trying to figure out is how to do a good job of congratulating the award winners and in making that something special versus just sending a letter or an email. So any suggestions or ideas you have that you want to forward to us, that'd be great. But that's what we're doing with Symposium. So any questions about the Symposium? We do have a stellar list of ed sessions that had already been developed with speakers. So we are excited to bring that to you. So look for more information in the future. All right. I will ask that if you're not speaking to please mute your mics during this next part. as we transition to the questions. So the first question that was received was, what's the update on our new REO? And I can tell you that the university is in a hiring pause. And of course, the hiring pause was enacted while we were in the middle of the search. So we have identified a candidate. We are not at a point where we can continue any discussions. As you all know, there's been an awful lot of cuts at the state, and so we don't know what that and how that's going to affect the association and the university in its whole. Because these are backfills, I don't see there's going to be an issue. We just have to wait until the proper procedures are lifted. So what that all means is you have myself and the team that is help servicing you right now. And our hope is by July 1st that we will be able to finalize that. The person that we have in mind has got great alumni relations experience coming within the university. So I'm super excited for somebody that will have great knowledge and will be a great resource for you. So any questions on the REO search? Okay. Second question. Let's see, where did I put those? Oh, game watches. So have any of you checked with your game watch location to see if they're in financial trouble where they may not be open? So Brian, you've got your place of establishment may be in trouble.
Our place is open. They don't know. They're very solid as far as being open, but they're just we're trying to get direction from you, and they're trying to get direction from the state as to what's allowed.
Okay. Well, I think again, if your state has less strict rules than Ohio, then I think that's going to supersede what we would recommend. Again, Debbie, the key thing is going to be what is considered safe. So if social distancing and the tables still have to be 6 feet apart and individuals need to be 6 feet apart, then we would ask that you adhere to that, but it would still allow you to do that. I think all of that will stem with, will we have a football season or not? I just can't imagine us not having a football season. We've heard everything from starting on time to conference only and starting in mid-October. And we've heard the entire season being moved to the spring and starting like in February with bowl games in May. I mean, that's how crazy it is. So I think the key thing is to communicate with your game watch location to find out what, can they adhere to the guidelines that are needed within your state? And then let's wait and see what happens with decisions that hopefully will come in mid-June. Brian.
So I started raising my hand before you had actually finished your question, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
None of our facilities are in a financially, compromised situation so far as we're aware now. Harold's Place is a completely outdoor cheeky bar, which for those of you who don't know is basically a thatched roof with palm fronds. It's a covered area, but it is considered outside, so that they don't have to have any of the 50% restaurant capacity guidelines. They, because it's open air, they can, seat tables at full capacity if they want. Bow campers, we do have in indoor seating as well as at Stevie Tomatoes. We have discussed it with both our, purveyors as well as our game captains, and they're all interested. Okay. So the issue really becomes one of, even if the university isn't like encouraging us to have game watches because of the risks, I guess, that are associated with COVID, is there a prohibition against people getting together? Because we've already had people say, like, whether there's actually a game watch or not, we're going to be there. We've got some rabid fans that, they've been going to the same place for 20 years. And so that's kind of where I'm looking for some guidance on that front. Do we even encourage it, or do we even say, like, nope, Buckeye Game Watch, there's not going to be a game on that TV, so don't come here. and we kind of want to know one way or the other.
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, the team will continue to monitor the situation, and we will send to you guys suggestions and ideas. I think, one of the things, we have to be reasonably considerate towards others and making sure that we're not putting anybody at risk. And if the restaurant or the bar that you work with can provide a safe environment, an enjoyable environment that allows us to gather within the guidelines, then, then that makes sense. As always, we're not going to tell you what you can't do, nor can we tell you what you should do. We're going to provide guidance and direction. And so we'll leave it at that. Does that make sense?
As clear as mud.
Okay. I mean, I think the key thing is just continue to communicate with your establishment to make sure that if and when football takes place, we're ready to go, because we know how important it is to raise scholarship dollars at those events, and we know how important it is to gather. We know the revenue that it brings into the restaurant is important. So we want to make sure that we can return to as normal as a life as we possibly can under these circumstances. So keep plugging it away, and we'll continue to monitor it, and we'll continue to provide you with guidance.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Next was what virtual ideas do you have for us? So let me ask you this first. How many of you have conducted a board meeting virtually since this all broke down? Debbie and Brian. So we got two groups that have done that. I would strongly encourage you to utilize the services of our Longaberger event staff and have one of them train you how to use Zoom, have them set up your board meeting. So that's the nice part, because we can use Carmen Zoom, which allows us more time, more people to participate. The staff member will log on with you at the beginning to make sure everything's working smoothly, and then they'll log off, and then you'll be able to continue. We've had quite a few societies and clubs that have been doing this already to great success, and they're keeping things moving. So if you had any hesitation whatsoever of having a board meeting, really encourage you to take advantage of the free resources that we're providing you. On top of that, let me share. Yeah, Debbie.
I just wanted to add, we as a board, we had a Zoom meeting last month, and it was great. It was very successful. But we also then plugged into our Game Watch location, and they graciously said, if we want to have our board meetings there and socially distanced, they're willing to open up and let us do that, which is kind of a win for them and a win for us. We have a central location. Most of our board is more comfortable in a face-to-face meeting than on a Zoom meeting, and it just supports our Game Watch location even when it's not football season, and they really need support.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, that's wonderful. Obviously, up here in Ohio, we don't have that option, so the Zoom meetings became very popular. But I'm thrilled that they reached out to you to do that. Some groups are telling us they're being more productive by being online versus in person. So it's something we're trying. Anyhow, okay, so some virtual ideas. So the LA Club has done a series of introduction to yoga. So again, they work with somebody that does the actual workout. People log in to Zoom like they do from the comfort of their home, and they go through the workout. So what we're seeing is a lot of health and wellness virtual events. I participated in the Cheer and Brutus Society's boot camp workout. Boot camp should have been the first two words I should have paid attention to not put myself through that. I will say I turned my video off within 5 minutes because I was dying. But what was great was they had about 15 people log on at 7:30 in the morning. They tapped into one of their alums that works for a gym in New York City, specializing in boot camp, and he put everybody through a half-hour workout, and it was fantastic. The society utilized some of the reimbursable programming money to purchase prizes, so they had some athletic gear that they gave away to random drawing for those that participated. Registration was free, and again, we can help you with registration links on your website where people could register for such events. what I really liked about that was the fact that they tapped into one of their own alums. So, you know, like Kelly, I know there's a fitness guru that lives in Atlanta that's an OSU alum, that maybe she'd be willing to do some sort of free workout on some morning to your members. And then our Done in Sport Wellness Alumni Society had what they called a happier hour. So it was focusing on health and well-being during the pandemic. So it wasn't a happy hour. They talked about some mocktails, but they had this like wheel of health where the facilitators went and described, you know, different things as we're all dealing with this. They're willing to do that presentation for you, for your group, if that's something you wish to pursue. I know, going back to Cheer and Brutus Society, they did a beer tasting. They worked with a brewery called Platform that has breweries in all Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Alumni were given the information to order their beer from the Platform, and then Platform delivered it to their homes. And then they were sent the link for a Zoom meeting where the beer master then talked through the different types of beers. So again, if you're in a situation where you really you don't have the opportunity to really set something in person, these are really some fun and easy ideas to put together. We've seen, how many of you have seen the email that's come from the association? It's come out once every 2 weeks now, talking about virtual programs. Have any of you seen that? Taken advantage of any of the sessions? One of my favorites was within the College of Arts and Sciences, and it's online if you wanted to watch it, did a 1 hour conversation with Kirk Herbstreit about a month ago. 700 people watched this from 4 to 5 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, and it was fantastic. It was so casual. So again, if you think about, like, look at our speakers list. So our Richland County Alumni Club did a luncheon, and they found a history professor within the College of Arts and Sciences who specializes in the history of infectious diseases and the effect of that. And so he was able to talk real life about things that have happened in the past and what we're dealing with right now. And again, when you do a luncheon, you grab lunch at your home and then you watch this presentation. So there's been some neat things out there that groups are doing. I know when we told everybody, don't worry about your status, I think a lot of folks were like, okay, great, let's take a pause. But as we continue to move forward, we do want you to try some of these new things, because what we're finding is people who can't come to an event can easily log onto their computer to participate in some program that's being offered to them at a time that's convenient for them. So that's something that we definitely want you to be thinking about. Questions? Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, quick question on that. So again, you said we can reach out to the Longaberger, people for assistance on the Zoom meeting. How many can that accommodate, and how long do we need as kind of like lead time? Is that similar to, when we post something on a social media platform that it's like a 4 to 6 week lead? Can you kind of give me some?
Yeah, absolutely. So this time you're reaching out to Jackie Bennett, who's the director of the LAH events office. So they're the folks that run the day-to-day business of the Longaberger Alumni House. And it's about, Brian, it all depends. Do you need someone that needs to be trained on how to run the Zoom meeting? They'll set that up first. And then you basically just say to them, hey, we have a board meeting on, June 2nd. Can you help get that set up? They'll set it up right away. So that's the 2 to 3 weeks to get an email, or the 4 to 6 weeks to do an event. Not the case. They can do that quickly. Now, if you are trying to schedule a speaker, and Jackie's team will help with this as well, where they'll help you with the technical aspect of what is called a webinar instead of a meeting. So when you do a webinar with a featured speaker, the only two people that you ever see pop up on the screen is the moderator and then the actual presenter. And Jackie's team, someone would be assigned to that event, and they would make sure everything ran smoothly, and also then double check the chat box to make sure that we're monitoring those questions. So the phone number to reach Jackie's team to start with is 614-292-3067. I will also send you all her email address so that you have that as well. But that's where you start. Ken, you had a comment?
Can you repeat that number again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. 614-292-3067.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, all of our work phones are forwarded through to our computers. So we will get Jackie's team they may not answer, but they'll definitely call you right back. Brian.
Greg, sorry. I know we have obviously the speakers list, but if we found somebody who was willing to participate who was not on the speakers list, is that still, I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong.
That'd be great. If you've got somebody that's willing to do a presentation that you think your folks are going to enjoy, absolutely. They don't have to, again, but we'll still provide you with that assistance to put on the event.
I've got a close connection with Aaron Kraft, so I'm trying. He's not on the speakers list yet, but his experience through COVID has been really interesting because he's been playing basketball overseas.
Yeah.
Now he's actually going to come to OSU for the medical, so I'd love to be able to do that, but he's not on the actual list.
Well, and actually, Brian, if you are able to set that up and you're willing, we could share that link with other groups in your area that could also enjoy that presentation.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking the question to that.
Yeah. So keep in mind the people that are on our speakers list, and when we say we'll provide you with somebody, because normally we're paying for the travel costs for that person to come down there and the lodging and so forth. But if you have access to someone who is willing to do that for you, boy, go for it. I think that's awesome. All right, and back to Ken.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up the afternoon with Kirk, because I thought it was great. In fact, everything that has been done by SSI has been very, very interesting, and like it a lot. And that I think you somewhat answered the question that I was going to ask. But what that got me to thinking after that event was, having lost our speaker and our annual event, would it be something that, and you said Jackie, but I was actually thinking, maybe it was Leslie, that could we set up something from the speaker list and do a virtual get together, or like you said, what was it, a webinar with one of the individuals from the speaker list. I guess I was more asking, has anybody done it yet? That was my idea that I was thinking of pursuing.
Yeah, good question, Ken. And yes, Leslie is actually reaching out to all of our speakers on the speakers list to see who's willing to present virtually. The feedback we've gotten from many has been very positive, because of course they don't have to travel anywhere and they can do the presentation from their home. So they're willing to do that. So yes, what I would say is, if you want to do a virtual event, a year-end event, if you wanted to call it so, with a speaker, you would work with Lass to get the speaker, and then you could work with Jackie's team to help with the technical aspect of putting on that webinar.
Okay, very good. I will fire off to Leslie tomorrow. She knows who we were going to have as a speaker, and I think there would still, even virtually, because of his association with football, have a wide appeal. And that's the other thing, of course. How do you attract individuals like 700 people? How
Right.
you got 700 people was Kirk. So that's a major step. But there's still some more thinking to go through as to how to make it successful, and we definitely would want to make it successful.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, we just secured Dr. Hoke, who's the director of the marching band. We're going to do a webinar with him in July as a part of our virtual series. So it's kind of like getting a behind-the-scenes look. How does the band come together? How are they doing tryouts during this time with virtual, and how do they put a show together? And so we'll be sure to let you know when that is set to go, so that you can share with your alumni base as well to participate. Wanted to remind you, the club awards, is live on the groups page. Those are due to us by August 10th. So if you have anybody you want to nominate, or you've got an outstanding program or innovative program you want to nominate your club for, please do so before August 10th. Those are all the questions that were sent ahead of time. So now I'm going to turn it over to you guys. This is an opportunity to share ideas, ask questions of each other, things that you're thinking about, things that you're planning for the next fiscal year. I will tell you, we have a team meeting tomorrow to talk about what the scarlet and gray tiered status will look like for next year. I do envision some revisions with everything that's going on, but also at the same time still looking for those unique ways for you to engage your alumni and fan base. So that's coming. All right, so who's got a question, comment, wants to pose something to the group?
I guess I have a question about student send-offs. I know we got the email that says you guys are doing virtual orientations. Does that imply then that you don't want send-offs? Do you want us to do that message virtually?
Yeah, so Deb, we may have talked about this before you jumped on, but no, just real quick. Yes, because we're in line with the university being virtual for orientation. We said the same thing: no in-person for summer send-offs. Couple alternatives. We're asking students this year to opt in if they wish to receive information from their local club, and then we'll provide you with those students' names and email addresses. And then our suggestion is to do something in December. So if students aren't on campus in the fall, it truly would be a send-off for spring. If they are on campus in fall, it would be a welcome home. Let's touch base. How did everything go? Because there is talks of the students being on campus but still learning virtually. That is something that we've heard. So interesting stuff with that. So we'll keep you posted. But Colin does have some suggestions and alternatives for you if you want to reach out to him.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, my pleasure. All right, something just came up in the question. When can we get membership renewal cards printed up? I think you can do that now. Uniprint is open for business. And so you would just submit a workfront request for a printed piece, and we'll take it from there. Other questions or questions that you want to ask of each other, since you've got a great chance to talk to your peers here.
I have a question is it John in the blue? You mentioned that you do a lot of community involvement activities. That's a huge thing for our alumni club, our alumni group in August. We typically have an event where we see 150 people turn out. Have you done any virtual volunteer events or thought about it? Or has anyone done any virtual volunteer events?
I've got one to share with you, but Jay, has Southwest Florida done anything?
Not virtually. I mean, we do just usual things like our last thing we did, but this was January before the whole thing broke loose. We did a hunger walk with Wink News, our local newscast, and did a group walk with them. And, we've done other things with Harry Chapin down here, mostly because I work with Harry Chapin. So I try and organize get-togethers where we help them out with building boxes and doing sorting, and sometimes mobile pantries, helping out at mobile pantries as a group. But everything we have done has been, getting a group together. But since the COVID-19, we haven't done anything virtually, no.
Okay.
So Kelly, the Cheer and Brutus Society did a really cool project. They sent an email to their alums asking them to write notes of thanks to the frontline workers at the James. And then, they were told to write the notes. They mailed it to the president. She collected all the notes, and then the society officers went and purchased fresh pressed juice from some company here in Columbus, and then had everything delivered to the frontline workers at the James. So it was and they used their reimbursable programming money to pay for those juices. So it was a great way to engage the alumni base, where alums can send notes, because we all probably know somebody on the front line.
Yeah.
It's a great community service project, and I'm sure that there's you've got plethora of hospitals to choose from
Right.
there in Atlanta, but it was just a great way to bring people together. The other thing too is one of their board members, and I don't know if Kelly, if you've met Jeremy on the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer, but one of their former Brutuses is a cancer survivor, and so this was an important important project to him as well. So that's a great way to involve folks virtually at a community service project.
Okay.
We've had one group do a blood drive, partnering with the company that collects blood for the James, where you had to schedule an appointment, but they still were able to conduct the blood drive.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
Yeah, I'll ask a question of everybody, or mostly you, Craig. We've had trouble getting people lined up for our scholarship. In the past 2 years, we've had actually one person apply. That was this year. It was actually a prior, or she's already at OSU. So we awarded her a scholarship because she was there. We have at least nobody that was going to OSU from our area that applied for a scholarship that we know of. My question to you is, we have now, this year we reached $100,000 in our scholarship fund, which gives us approximately $4,000 to $5,000 a year to award to somebody. Now, going forward, I guess I want to probably present to the board maybe some other possibilities for donations. I guess, is there a list of various agencies that we can donate to at OSU so we can make it in, since we are an OSU club, that we might want to make some donations to instead of putting the money in a scholarship fund? Only because I think at $100,000 now, we've got the $4,000 to $5,000, and because we're just not getting many students from here. I mean, it's very expensive, obviously, going to OSU anymore from down here, and Florida is a very friendly state for the students to go to our universities down here in Florida, from an expense standpoint. So I didn't know if there's a list out there, if anybody has some groups like, I don't know, Susan Komen, for cancer. Is there anything like that where we could say, or something military, we could do directly at OSU? Every year, instead of giving our money, putting money towards the scholarship fund, we could actually make a direct donation to some group or organization at OSU that might appeal to general membership, because if I had my way, I'd donate the money to the veterinary scholarship, but that's a little bit specific.
Sure. Well, I'm going to turn to all of you. Yeah, Brian?
So just being your neighbor to the south, I have a quick question. On your website, does it have a segment, a drop-down list for information on scholarship programming, or?
Yeah, we do have a scholarship tab. Is that what you mean? Yeah,
I mean, just something that students, anybody who said,
they can look at our website, and we have a scholarship tab there. And of course, Leslie did a good job this year with this new format of informing potential students, I guess, that might be interested in going to OSU, but about the scholarship. So they would have received an email from Leslie, but nobody applied. I don't know what to say. I guess they don't want $5,000 if they are going from here.
And to that point, John, I it's crazy how sometimes how sometimes our two communities are so different, because we actually had substantial numbers. We filled our scholarships for the year. Moreover, we actually had to turn students away because they either applied and didn't qualify, or they applied too late after Leslie's deadline had passed. So, unfortunately, we had the dubious honor of having to tell these academians, try next year, kind of thing. So we're in the exact opposite situation. And again, maybe that's just the Naples versus Fort Myers area. I don't know, but
I think it's Naples versus Fort Myers. I
yeah.
must admit. I mean,
And again,
you know, you've had a lot more. I mean, it's been a struggle for us to get to 100,000, whereas I know you've had benefactors over the past that have made scholarship fund very large compared to ours. I think you've got what, over 1 million. I just
you're absolutely right from that front, and I'm not trying to take anything away from. I mean, we've been very fortunate, and I have had the distinct honor of being the president of not having had to grow that. But to that point, though, the fact that you still are able to give, 5,000, 6,000. Craig, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the average is only like for the entire nation on the alumni, scholarships funds. It's like $1,000 per student. So if you're able to give 5,000, like you're way ahead of the game.
I know. I shake my head every year about where are these students, and I don't know. Because I know Leslie emailed them all this year, because I've been trying to work with her to get some people to apply for the $5,000. But and like I say, we opened it up. We had to open it up to students from Lee County, and we've even opened up to students from Charlotte County and Hendry County. So we've actually opened our scholarship up to 3 counties. And still, I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure it out.
Susan?
It ebbs and flows. I mean, one year we had, for 4 years we had like nine students, and now this year we're going to have 3. So we've actually donated to Buckeye Crews for Cancer. We've bought a whole cabin. It was like, or we were sponsored for $5,000. We did that. One year, one of our girls down here was on the gymnastics team, and they were in need of a balance beam. So we actually donated money to buy a balance beam for their sport. So all these non-revenue sports don't, have a whole lot of money. And I think it's going to really hurt if football doesn't happen this year too. I think a lot of sports are going to get hurt, but you could be creative in donating that kind of money. But we've done it in the past. I mean, our scholarship generates about $12,000 to $14,000 a year. So we have extra money left over too that we like to do it. So like you're thinking, we've given to a lot of causes as well. So you can do it. It does work.
Yeah, and Jay, we can talk offline with a variety of different places that have need. One of the greatest ones that I don't think a lot of people realize, 20% of our students have food insecurity, and so there are now these food banks on campus. I know the Osura Society has adopted that as one of their causes that they raise money for, is for that food bank on campus. So that would be a good place where you're still benefiting students, even though they may not be from your area. So we can share with you some potential really good causes that your folks might get excited to support.
Yeah, because since most of our money is generated through the Game Watch, hopefully we'll have the Game Watches this year. We like to be honest with the people. Over the years, we've always told them this is going for a scholarship, and so if we're going to change and switch where we're going to donate to some other group or agencies, I would want them to know that, we're also now going to consider another group or another agency where their money will go.
Yeah. Debbie.
Craig, sorry.
Oh.
This is Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry.
I just have a quick question. I've asked a couple times about, we have trouble finding scholarship recipients as well in the Treasure Coast. And we've asked a couple times if we could award scholarship to a student who is maybe a grandchild of one of our members, or, they may not be actually living in our area, but we were always told we couldn't. But it sounds like you're a little bit more flexible than we thought, or something. Is that a possibility now that we could?
Let me tell you this. Let me ask the expert.
Well, I was just going to say, one thing for us is if we changed our scholarships to include something, like we'd have to change our constitution, because actually it's written in our constitution that the scholarship will go to a graduate of a high school in our area. So it's a kind of written that we'd have to change, which we could, obviously, to
So
broaden it.
in Jay's case, Sherry, where they're saying they've got $4,000 or $5,000 to give a scholarship, any additional money that they raise, they want to send to something else. Whereas that money from the scholarship fund needs to go to a scholarship, unless the description of the fund is rewritten. And I know because we were dealing with one of the groups in North Carolina was in that same situation that you're currently in. So let me ask Leslie about that, and I'll have her follow up with you.
Okay. I think we did find somebody this year, but it's been a problem in the past where we haven't been able to award a scholarship. So we would like to be able to give to someone related to our area, if nothing else.
Yep. Like I said, I think we've got some history there with that, so I'll follow up. Debbie.
I just want to mention that Sarasota and Manatee counties were the home to Betty Schoenbaum and her husband, and they're huge. I mean, he played football for Ohio State. He's the founder of Shoney's, and they've just done so much for this side of Florida, not just our city, this side of Florida and Columbus and the university. I mean, they've been and other places internationally. So, we Betty, her husband died years ago, but Betty Schoenbaum died just a couple of years ago. And, she started this policy where she would pay for a group of students to come from the Fisher School of Business to come down here to Florida every year over spring break to do community-based projects. And their foundation is strictly community-based. I mean, they reach out to food banks, they reach out to schools, they reach out to all aspects of society. And with her passing, that personal check to sponsor those kids doesn't exist anymore. So we as a club are picking up a portion of that. And I'm sure that, if you're at a loss for, you don't know what to do with money, that's really a legitimate cause that is very deeply rooted in Ohio State, very deeply rooted in Florida and the communities of Florida. So, think about that one too. If you need to, if you're looking for something to do with your unused scholarship funds, because that's really a very legitimate, very good and worthy cause that she's developed schools. I mean, she's just incredible. And the other thing too to remember is Archie Griffin is here in Manatee County, and he also does a huge fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Sarasota County. I'm sure it reaches over to Manatee because that's where he lives. But that's another thing that you might want to consider as well, is, again, deeply rooted Ohio State group. But he's really reaching out to the local community as well.
Brian. Yeah,
sorry, Debbie. I'm not familiar with the Shoney's family specifically.
Schoenbaum is I can't remember his first name, but Betty Schoenbaum was his widow, and Shoney's is the very Midwestern kind of friendly style kind of restaurant. But he had huge success with that company, and he always made sure to give back to the university. In fact, I believe, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a couple of buildings on campus that bear their name, and they started a whole school there in the inner city of Columbus, pre kindergarten program. They're just a very worthy cause, and they're extremely community oriented, and they do sponsor trips to Florida over the spring break time period, so that kids are, students there are getting the community service experience.
Okay, Craig, can you tell me, is that part of the Buckeye Serve program, or are they kind of?
It sounds like it is not. It sounds like it's something separately set up through Fisher. But I know Andrea Boland has worked with the Schoenbaums for a long time. I can follow up with Andrea to find out how that connection is made.
Okay, because and Debbie, to segue a little bit, we consistently, except for this year, which they canceled the Buckeye Serve program for what would then be fall. We do it, I think, 3 times a year. Craig, is that correct, or 2?
3.
Buckeye Serve is a program that's through Buckeye Alumni Association, and
through student life.
And students, instead of spending time at spring break or summer break or winter break, partying it up, skiing, at the beach, whatever the case may be. They dedicate their time to serving community. And our community, we send them out to Mockley. We pay for their travel to and from. We take care of room and board. And so it sounds like it's kind of a similar program to what the Schonenbaums have done, but it's exclusively through our alumni association to the effect that we fund that program. So I was just kind of I'd be more interested to see what their programming is, if it's complimentary or if it's actually part of Buckeye Serve, because I've not heard of it.
Yeah, I'm sure it is part of Buckeye Serve. I'm just not sure. I can look into it for you for sure.
I'd appreciate that. Or Craig, how are you going?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it's 9 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of your all's times, and I'm sure many of you have been on Zoom throughout the day. Are there any other final questions or comments that you want to share with each other before we close? All right, so you will receive a survey at some point tomorrow to give us some feedback about these. One of the main reasons why we did this was we had such positive feedback from the last Zoom meeting we did with all of you that we wanted to have a more intimate conversation with the regions. But next, we're going to look at creating almost like a roundtable based on large city, small city, out of state, in state. So if there are any topics that you all would like us to cover, or a group of like-minded clubs that you want to meet with, let us know. And we're going to set those up sometime next month. But if not, I don't see anybody's hand or anything. All right. Again, you guys, thank you so much for spending this hour with me. I really appreciate it. I hope some of the ideas have generated some thoughts. We really do hope you'll embrace virtual programming. Colin and Tyler just completed a new book club instructions on doing a virtual book club with your alums as well. So new resource coming your way. Have a great night. Be safe and be well. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.